Hey guys, I'm out in my barn today. This is one of my ponies. Say hi. And I just wanted to address, there's been some talk lately on the internet, on some social media groups, about how if a horse falls asleep during a treatment, some people are arguing, oh, that's a really good thing. That means the treatment's working. Other people say, no, that's a bad thing. It actually means that the horse's system is overwhelmed. So I just kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in there with having 30 some years experience, but definitely 21 years experience doing acupuncture and body work and such like that on horses. So here's my take on it. I think it's both. I think that the skill has to be in the practitioner to, one, feel what's going on with their hands energetically, physically, that they also have to go into every one of their treatments with mindful regard for the horse. For instance, there will be times when the horse actually draws you in deeper than where you're working, and you will get a release and the horse will yawn or lick and chew, or they will stretch, or they will get sleepy-eyed. But you will be able to feel that with your hands as to whether that is a good response or not. I do think that there's also the opposite is true, that sometimes you'll be working on a horse and you'll be pulled into something, or you'll be working on something, and all of a sudden you can feel a little resistance come up. And that's when you have to mindfully regard that, meaning that is not an invitation to keep going or to go deeper. I have also stood, basically, and it's sort of metaphoric, on the edge of that and actually let the horse do what they need to do to release that without me going further, meaning I hear what they're saying, so I am not pushing further, but I am inviting them to go to that place, and that's like somato-emotional release. So there is where the bodies can hold emotions in the tissues, and you do not want to like bull through that and bust through that, but you do want to have a healing presence for that. And sometimes those horses will actually move before they can release. Now, I'm not talking dancing away, trying to get away from you, or acting agitated or anxious or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that they'll be like, oh yeah, I gotta kind of twitch there, or they might paw 2 or 3 times, or they might pick the hind leg up and then put it back down again. Like there is these subtle movements where I do feel like they're trying to let go of something because of the work that you're doing. So I never look and say, oh, because the horse fell asleep during the treatment, that was good. Some horses don't. That doesn't mean that the treatment was not effective. I think a lot of owners want to see that because that is outward visualization to them that, they're getting what they're paying for. But I don't think that is a legit way to judge the effectiveness of the treatment. But I also don't think it's negative when it's done, if it's done in the right context. Now, I have totally seen horses shut down, go to sleep, and block what is happening to them out. I have totally seen that, and that is not a good response. I have also seen complete and utter overwhelm. I usually see that with the machines. When someone is coming in and putting a machine on them and they get sleepy, I question that big time, because I feel like that is nervous system overload. That is vagal nerve overload. That is not a good thing. And a lot of people look at it and be like, oh, look, the lady comes and puts the PMF machine on my horse and he immediately drops his head and goes to sleep. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of that. There is no way for them to, the only way for them to really So people say, yeah, but if they didn't like it, they would act up. But it's not, nervous system overwhelm isn't like that. It's not like it slowly builds and they act up. It's like immediate overwhelm. So I don't really like that. Let's see where. So I think what it has to do with your practitioner has to be really good, and your practitioner has to be aware of the different scenarios. I don't think that every time they fall asleep that it's good. I don't think every time they fall asleep that it's bad. I think every time that we try and put something in a box like that and we say always or never is when we get ourselves in trouble. I don't think every time they move that it's a bad thing. But I don't always think if they're moving that it's a good thing. It so depends on what's going on, what is the environment that you're working on, what is what are you feeling underneath of your hands? What are you feeling in the core of your body while you're working on that horse? There's so much subtle nuance to that it takes quite a few years of being a practitioner to really tune into that and to understand what that means. I'm just going to reiterate, I don't think that you can judge the effectiveness of your treatment based on those properties either. I really don't. I have seen horses that have maybe had what people think is a lot of releases, but so they felt nice and calm afterwards, but it really didn't get to the core of the problem. I've also had where I feel like the horse was a little bit antsy, and I had to take steps back and I had to approach it a different way, and I had to kind of put my brain together about what does this horse need, and feel like, I don't know, maybe that wasn't the most effective treatment, and then come back later and the owner reports that the horse felt amazing the next day. So you can't, I think we need to be careful about making subjective judgments on things because horses can't talk. But with that being said, I think every time that we interact with our horse, we have to be looking for what is their experience of this. And we have to mindfully really be astute to what they are trying to communicate, what patterns they have, what they need in the moment, and so I think there's a lot of presence and present moment that is required of the practitioner to be able to deliver that to each horse. And so that's kind of my 2 cents on it, which is really not a hard stance in any one direction, but it is a hard stance in that I think we're arguing about stuff. And I think it's good. I think it's good because I think it's bringing awareness, because some people might think, oh, well, every time their horse falls asleep, it's great. And other people might think that that's never good. And I think these discussions help iron out the subtleties of when it might be good or might not be good. And I don't always go for that. If I have a really nervous horse that I'm working at, obviously I would like the treatment to bring their thinking levels down and help them relax. But I'm actually probably going for that in the treatment. So I'm actually looking for that. I'm actually treating that. I'm actually wanting to bring them that kind of relief to their mental, emotional body, and not just looking at something physical. But there's other times where I have a fairly calm horse and I might have to go after something that we know is really a problem. And, they're not going to fall asleep during that, because sometimes when you get a massage, it doesn't always feel good. You can actually verbalize to the other person, that's working on you, what you're feeling, where the horses have a hard time. So we have to read into their behavior. But I think that as the diversity of behavior in humans is so vast, So is it in horses. So I think we should be really careful about putting things in boxes and making hard lines around things and say that, this is areas to be explored. This is areas to be cognizant about. This is areas to, really think things through. Yeah, and just to really go into it with that mindful regard, with that regard for the horse's experience in a mindful way, that we are never pushing our agenda on them, but we are there to facilitate what they need that day. That's my 2 cents.